John Middleton in spring training, and I've spoken to players about it. What his message to the team was, I want that World Series trophy back. And I want that bleeping World Series trophy back. And that's what he said right there, if you couldn't hear it, because they had to bleep it out, because that was from the official Phillies Twitter account, I believe. He said, I want that bleeping trophy back. Yep. And then the guys, oh. So it was, it's pretty awesome, Tyler, to see an organization that for a lot of my life was much maligned, and for good reason. They did a lot of losing, and were talked about as being cheap, talked about as not caring, talked about as kind of being a second-class organization, to where they're anything but a second-class organization. This is the one franchise, and this isn't taken away from Jeffrey Lurie, because Jeffrey Lurie has been here a long time and has done a great job with the Eagles. But this is a local ownership group. These are owners that have been Phillies fans for generations, and to see them get back to this kind of success. And John Middleton, I'll be honest with you, he went into luxury tax spending. A lot of owners don't do that. A lot of owners don't have to do that. He was always consistent and said, when this team's ready to win a World Series, I'll spend. This dude just keeps spending and spending and spending and spending, and it's working out. People are filling his stadium. It was a sellout last night, and he has a team that is going to be a favorite to win a World Series this year. So I feel good for the ownership. I feel good for the players. It's a very likable team. From Bryce, who, man, he's coming to town from being a free agent, and I think a lot of people thought of him maybe differently, or wasn't sure of the reputation of a guy you were getting. He is amazing. He's an amazing superstar in this town. He's legit. Bryce Harper's as legit as any player that's ever been traded for, that's ever signed in the city, that's ever played in this city. He really is. Like, he has taken being a Philadelphia Philly personally, and he said, like, this is my franchise, and he's taken it all on his shoulders. Kyle Schwarber, another home run last night, an amazing signing. And even Nick Castellanos, who a lot of people have crapped on over his career, he's been pretty productive when he's not having these totally cold, dry moments when he's clueless up at the plate. Castellanos is actually a pretty good contributor to the Phillies. Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler. Nola looked good again last night. I am ready for this team. I'm ready for the postseason to start, Tyler. But I know you went postgame last night. You were on till late, enjoying the scene, enjoying everything. But this one feels good. It feels good. They clinched, and it feels so good, Tyler.
Yeah, I think you brought up the ownership group, and I think that's a really good place to start, because you're right. This is an ownership group that cares about this franchise. We've talked about disenfranchised ownership groups before, and I hate to point the finger, but there's one in this city. We know who it is. And it's and listen, business is business. Make your money, and I'm not going to fault Harris and that group for making their money. But that is what it is to them. It's a business. John Middleton, this is personal. And he said it. He wants his bleeping trophy back, right? And I think about the previous ownership groups, and the one that the one acquisition that I think you can almost pinpoint that kickstarted 20 years of willingness to go out and make acquisitions when your team is good, right? Because you take that 7-8 year sample size where this is a dreadful organization.
Right.
You throw that out the window because, like Middleton said, they're not going to spend money when they're not ready to. But if you take the block of the 5 years they won the division and the last 4 years where they started to spend, big time bucks, you go back to Jim Thome being signed. It was the corner turn for this organization to say, we're willing to spend money and free agents are willing to come here. And somebody said it in the group chat, like in the chat here, there's a return on investment when you invest in your organization. Ticket sales, jersey, merchandise, everything you can possibly think of, you're making your money back on. So to go back to like the very beginning of this organization kind of turning a corner, I think about the Jim Thome signing, which in part led to, the additions that they were willing to make when they got good, and bringing in a Raul Ibanez, a Roy Halladay, a Roy Oswalt, a Cliff Lee. And then it parlays, two very separate teams. But then you think about an organization that's willing to spend money, and you bring in JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Zach Wheeler. That, to me, like, whether you win championships or not, it's very hard to do. But to have two different blocks of sustained success because of your willingness to compete, that means something to your fan base.
No, I agree. It's a great point. David Montgomery took over in, I believe it was the summer of '97. They forced Bill Giles out, and David Montgomery more or less started running the franchise from the ownership level. And it took a little bit of time. They were so damn close under Larry Boa. Go back and look at those teams. They have 86, 87, I think even 88 win teams. But with the one wild card, depending on what year you're in, they just kept falling short. Charlie Manuel comes in. Ed Wade's gone. When they made the move to Pat Gillick, similar to Dave Dombrowski right now, a veteran Hall of Fame general manager comes in and he knows exactly what to do with the roster, and Pat Gillick did the same thing. And those guys make mistakes. Pat Gillick made mistakes with Adam Eaton and Jeff Jenkins. Dave Dombrowski's made mistakes here with Taijuan Walker, and some people will say Castellanos, although he's been very productive in stretches. So they take big swings, and they get hits, and they're not afraid to spend money. You had just mentioned it, and it's so true to look back at it. They were in play for every major trade at the trade deadline, for every major move in the offseason. They went out and got Roy Halladay, a future Hall of Famer and the best pitcher in baseball. They traded for him. They traded Cliff Lee, which everybody hated. They also traded for Cliff Lee. And then they won the World Series before all that happened. And like you said, it's hard to win World Series. The year against the Giants won the World Series. That was a very good team. The Cardinals year, that was a very good team, right? And I feel like that Ruben Amaro takes a lot of crap in this town, and ultimately it fell apart. Man, he was going for it.
He put a product on the field that was ready to win.
Man, was anybody complaining when you had the aces and you had every trade that he made and every star that he had? The problem was they probably went a little bit too far in trying to milk out the Howard and the Utley and the Rollins when those guys were really done. But what do you want them to do? Right? Like, I wouldn't have known how to manage a team like that. They were homegrown players. It's not as easy to walk away from, like Kyle Schwarber. When Kyle Schwarber is whenever he's going to be like deteriorating as a player and going backwards, it'll be easier to not re-sign him than it would have been Ryan Howard or Jimmy Rollins or Chase Utley, guys that were drafted and developed by the organization that won championships. But the bottom line is this is a great ownership group, and they deserve as much credit as anybody else because really they've put this together and they've done it. Doesn't it always feel different with the Phillies? Like that we're one of them. And again, I'm not talking about the Eagles, and everything is going to get pointed to the 76ers. Which, by the way, I think a lot of it is unfair, but it is what it is. Josh Harris is just thought to be kind of a mercenary that's coming in. He's made a ton of money off buying the Sixers. He's going to get a new downtown arena. He really loves the Commanders, which is probably true. It was his childhood team. But with the Phillies, it feels like family because all of the Phillies ownership and everybody in the organization have been with them for so long. So this one feels good.